All right, and we're live. So, welcome back to episode number 3. Today, my guest is Yasmin.
Oh,
Yasmin, do you want to say something to the
oh,
people
I'm
watching?
honored to be
All right.
here.
Yeah, so this is gonna be, it's actually funny though because the first time that you came over, we sat for maybe 2 hours
Yeah.
and talked for maybe 2 hours, and I immediately thought about like how that would have been a podcast in of itself
No, literally.
because we talked
Literally.
about like so much shit and so much like deep stuff that
Mm-hmm.
could have easily used for the podcast. So yeah, so let's start this podcast off by giving people a quick summary
Of
of
me? Oh.
what your upbringing looked like.
Okay.
Like, yeah, just like let's
Um,
start from the very beginning of like
okay.
how.
So
Yeah, sorry.
March 4th, Princess was born, clearly. And so, my parents were married, of course. And when I was in third grade, I didn't have the most like happy home life, I guess you can say. My parents were constantly fighting, so it was just always a fight. So in third grade, my mom approached me and she was like, I want to divorce your dad. And at that point, like, I kind of really knew what divorce was. I didn't know too much in depth, obviously. I'm in third grade at this point. But I was okay with it. Most kids would be like, not okay with it. They'd be super emotional, like, oh my God, my parents are breaking up. They're never going to be together again. But at that point, it's like when you're living in a household where it's like just constant fighting, you're like, what the fuck? When is this shit gonna end, So I was totally fine with it. At that, after the divorce, I was asked by the judge, I guess, who I wanted to live with and what parent I wanted to have full custody of me. And I obviously said my mom. And my dad was like confused because before my parents got divorced, I was a daddy's girl. So I was always just like, I had the best relationship with my dad. I never had the best relationship with my mom growing up, ever.
And you still chose her.
And I still
over your
chose
dad.
her, exactly.
Wow.
So when that happened, my dad basically, like, I really just can't describe my dad other than he's just a piece of shit. I mean, like, it's, as bad as that may sound to most of you, like, he's just a piece of shit. Like, as a father, he's like, no.
Okay, so I'm kind of confused right now because, all right, so you said that the judge asked you who you preferred to live with.
Yeah.
And you chose your dad.
I chose my mom.
Sorry, yeah,
My mom.
you chose your mom despite being a daddy's girl. You said,
Yeah.
right? But okay, so yeah, so that kind of like, so since you didn't really have, so you had an intimate connection with your dad.
I did. I had a deeper, obviously, like, father-daughter relationship with my dad. But I don't know, being so young, I thought long term for some reason. I don't know, it was just so weird. Like, I don't know. I thought about, like, this may sound gross to you, but like, when I get like, how's it gonna be the first time if I ever get my period? Like, who am I gonna talk to about? I don't want to talk to my dad about that. Like, that's disgusting.
You thought about that in
Yeah,
third
I
grade?
really did. That's so
Holy
weird.
shit. Third grade, what?
But no, I actually. But anyway, let's not talk about when I got my period. But, yeah, it was just so weird. You know what? Like,
Yeah, because like when you said that you were kind of okay or you were kind of neutral
well,
when
yeah, because
your
I
mom
mean,
brought it up, I thought, well, okay, so she probably doesn't have a very strong connection with her dad. But then you said that you were a daddy's girl, and then you said that your dad's a piece of shit.
Right.
So you're kind of all over the place right now.
I
and I'm
mean,
not,
you know what? Like, growing up in my house, my dad was always also abusive, like physically abusive to my mom.
really.
So there were plenty of cop calling fights, plenty of my neighbors, being involved. So when you see that as like a young child, you're just like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
what the
Especially
fuck?
a third grader, right?
Yeah,
Like,
of course. I remember an
going through
incident
all
when I
that
was in
stuff.
second grade, actually, and my parents were still married, and we were all living together. And my mom, it's like, it should never come to this, but my mom always told me, she's like, if anything ever gets so bad, run to my room and get the house phone and call 911.
Wow.
And like, I just remember a fight breaking out, and it got so bad that I ran to my mom's room. I picked up the phone and I was ready. I legit had the phone in my hand to call 911 to explain like what was going on. And then my mom ran into my room and shut the door before my dad can even come in. And it was just like at that point, my mom, it just hit her like, I need to get away from this. You know,
it wasn't a healthy relationship.
it wasn't.
Obviously.
My parents' relationship really never was. The way my mom described it to me, even before I was born.
What was the main reason for the violent interactions? Like, is there any like alcohol like behind it? Is there any like reason as to why your dad was so aggressive?
Well, now I
in the
know. I
household?
mean, when I was in like high school, my mom told me that my dad was like a complete drug addict. Like he was always doing his thing, and yeah, it was just yeah.
Okay, so when did they officially seal the divorce? Like when did they officially
They
make
officially.
like officialize it?
I remember I was either in 3rd or 4th grade because it does take like it's a whole process. You know, you got to go to
It takes
court and
long.
you got to do
Lawyers.
this, and so it took a couple months. But I was around 3rd or 4th grade.
Wow. So then your dad moved out of the house, obviously.
My
and
dad
you stayed with
fled
your
to
dad.
Brazil and fucking owes me child support. So
Oh shit. So if you're watching right now,
if you're watching right now, I need my child support money.
She needs money right now. Girls gotta eat. Wow. So he fled to Brazil.
Well, yeah, not necessarily. Well, I guess you can call it fleeing.
Yeah, because
Because this is what happened. So my dad at that time, he had, I guess it's like partial custody, right? So he had his visitation rights. So he wanted to go on vacation with me. So before going on vacation to Brazil, you obviously need to get consent from my mom and consent from the judge. So the judge gave my dad a 2-week consent for our vacation in Brazil. Came the day to leave to come back here, my dad never took me to the airport. So basically, he kidnapped his own child, which is, yeah. So I was like 9 or 10 years old when I went through this. And
wow.
at that point, my mom didn't even know what to do with herself. Like, I was stuck in Brazil for almost 3 months. Like, legit. I came back right before September to start school just in time.
Wow.
From, I want to say, June to August.
Wow.
I was, like, stuck in Brazil.
And you were supposed to stay there for 2 weeks.
Exactly. But the reason why I was so stuck, why I couldn't come home immediately, is because my parents got married in Brazil. So legally, my parents are still married in Brazil. At that point, they still were. So they see
shit.
that, and I'm in another country, and they're like, "Oh, but you're still
They have
married."
no problems
So
with
he technically didn't kidnap his own daughter.
Wow. So how did your mother eventually get you back?
So she hired as many lawyers as she possibly could. My brother's a lawyer as well over there too. So my brother also helped. His dad also helped. So with all the help that we got, like, they got me
You
back.
managed to
Yeah,
get
like
you
she got me back.
Did she physically go to Brazil to get you back?
No.
Or did you
No, she couldn't
find your way back?
Yeah, there was like a document that they had to sign or whatever. I don't know. At this point, like, I don't even remember. But all I remember is I came back home and I saw my mom was skinnier than when I left.
Wow.
Yeah.
So she obviously went through a really
she
tough
was
time.
distraught. Like, she was out of her mind.
I mean, I can only imagine, having your kid
Yeah,
just
like, legit.
disappear and not know. Well, I mean, if I were her, like, if I were in her position, for example, I wouldn't let you go with him. Period. Like traveling after the divorce is kind of like, it's kind of
it's kind of
obvious
like,
what his intentions were.
yeah.
Like, let's go to a different country. Like, maybe let's go to Wildwood.
Yeah,
first,
yeah, of
right?
course.
Like, let's take baby steps before we actually make that.
Yeah, but I
jump
think
into,
with
like-
Brazilians too is that all our family is over there,
Yeah.
So it's like you don't really think that far ahead when you're like, oh, but she's gonna be in Brazil where my family is too.
And my family will protect
Exactly,
her, keep an eye out.
exactly.
But yeah. So okay, so then you came back, and how old were you when you
I was
actually
going
came back?
into 5th grade at that point.
5th grade. And then after that, you've never spoken to your dad before.
I actually reached out to my dad 2 years ago before one of my semesters started, and at that point I was going to Bergen Community College, and my mom, sometimes she pays for my tuition out of pocket, and my mom at that point didn't have any extra money or to pay for my books, and I needed $500. I estimated around $500 only because I was taking a bio class at that point. So bio classes are
The
very
books are
expensive.
extremely expensive. Yeah,
On top of like 3 other classes. So my mom, she was like, I don't have enough money, so I don't know what to do. So I reached out to my dad. That's the next person I thought of.
How did you reach out to him?
Through Facebook Messenger.
Facebook.
I found him through Facebook Messenger. I reached out to him and I was like, I really, 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 really need a favor from you. I need to pay for my books for college. And he's like, well, how much are they? And I was like, $500. And he was like, what? Like, question, why are they that expensive? And I'm like, my mom just paid almost $4,000 in tuition for my semester at that point. $500 should be nothing to you. So my dad had to legit think that through, like second guess if he should give me $500 or not for my school.
Yeah.
So at that point, I was so pissed, and my mom had to reach out to his mom. Long story short, I got my money from my books, and I got my books, and
yeah. So basically, you think that he was maybe doubting your mother's intention with that money? Maybe he thought that she was making that up. Just to get
basically,
money,
yeah,
just to get money.
basically.
Wow. So then you got the money, and then like, have you ever seen him personally after that?
No.
Right? Like,
No.
after 4th grade, 5th grade, you said.
Last time I saw him was, I want to say, like 12 years ago.
Damn, that's crazy. And what were you? So you were studying what in Bergen County?
Marketing.
Marketing, and you needed bio books.
Because I was taking my general ed still.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Did you get any degree in marketing at all?
I got my associates in marketing, and now I'm pursuing my bachelor's in PR.
And you got the internship that you told me about.
Yeah.
So how does that work? Like, where is the internship at?
So I am an intern at Patterson Board of Ed. I work in the communication department. So basically what it entails is handling social media, writing press releases. But right now, since it's summer, it's so slow since it's the Board of Education. So we're not really handling anything with schools in too much. But that's what it basically is.
So you're basically representing the company,
basically.
Right?
Well, the Board of Ed, yeah.
Which is what public relations is, right? Basically. And so you told me about the blog that you created about fashion.
Yes.
So how does that tie into the whole macro scheme of things? Like explain your passion for fashion.
Well, ever since I was, could actually speak as a little girl and walk and all that, I've always wanted to dress myself. And I think that growing up, I became obsessed with clothes. Not even that normal obsession with a little girl, just like, I like this, I like this, I like this. Like, I genuinely love feeling texture of fabric. I like to pair anything I can. I love the color schemes. I love everything. Designers. I love reading up on history of designers, and when I started and this is a blog that was a long time coming. Like, this is something that I've been planning for so long. I just wanted to make sure that I was not only going to have the time, but I was going to commit to it fully and not half-ass my end result. So my passion for it comes from not just fashion itself, just the people that have been such an influence in the fashion industry, such as like designers, even businesswomen, anything, like anything that just influences these designers and inspires them to be who they are and to create what they create.
Who's your favorite designer? Or top, 3, 5, like who are your go-to designers?
It's gonna sound like cliche, but I would have to say Chanel.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you said and talked about how you've always been kind of the kid that likes to express herself, right? So you express yourself through
fashion,
the clothing that you choose to wear. So that's your form of express. Do you think that kind of, like, from a psychology standpoint, considering your upbringing, considering the fact that you grew up in a household where you had an abusive father, do you think that kind of suppressed your creative endeavors to a point where after that phase, you found a way to express yourself vividly and freely through clothing and through fashion and through the way that you went about yourself, since maybe within your household you didn't really have that good of a communication, let's
Right.
say, with both parents, or maybe, because you said that you didn't really get along with your mother either, right?
I didn't have the best
Yeah,
relationship with
the
my
best
mom,
with her,
but
yeah. And then viewing your dad as this monster in a
right.
sense where, he's aggressive and he's violent towards your mother and stuff. So maybe you didn't really have that reassurance that most kids hunger for. So then you found that reassurance in the way that you portray yourself. Do
Right.
you think that that kind of makes sense?
I know it definitely makes sense. I mean, I don't think it really just, if anything, it just opened up a whole new door for me. Whenever I was going through family problems, I always turned to creativity, being creative about something, whether it's writing my thoughts, whether it's just looking at clothes online, whether it's just researching anything, listening to music even. It's something just always helped, like I never became that kid, that divorced kid who
Emo
was
and
like
depressed and stuff.
depressed and shit. Like I was never like that. Like obviously I had my bad days where I'm like, you know what, I'm feeling like I
Yeah,
don't like
kind of.
this. Like I had my bad days, obviously we all do, but I never took it to an extreme level of I'm gonna start cutting myself because my parents are divorced. Like I'm gonna, like I never did some extreme shit like that.
Did you have any outside role models that you would look up to?
Lauren
At
Conrad.
Lauren
Lauren
Conrad.
Conrad, she's a fashion influencer. She's a stylist. She's a fashion designer. She was on The Hills, if anyone knows that.
Okay, and obviously, like anybody that looks at you at first, like they obviously know that you're a very confident person in your way that you go about. So, like, where do you think you've gotten that confidence from? Like, what was the source of that confidence? Because, like you said, a kid that grew up in your circumstances, you would assume the opposite, right? You would assume a suppressed, repressed kid, a kid that just, but you're the complete opposite. So, how does that happen?
Growing up, like especially before I started high school, my mom, when I started to actually live with my mom after the whole Brazil kidnapping
Scandal.
happened, that's when I had to start like adjusting to having and creating a relationship and a bond with my mom. So I wasn't used to that. So growing up, my mom always showed me tough love. In a sense where if she needed to be tough with me, she was going to be tough with me. But my mom is a very loving woman. I love her so much. But what was the question?
How did you acquire the confidence that you
Oh yeah.
portray
So
today?
I mean, it's me.
See, like
I don't have
that's
to acquire
exactly what
it.
I'm
It's
talking
me.
about. Like, how do you get to that point? Like, how do you?
Like honestly, I have to say, like in high school, I don't want to say I hated high school, but like I definitely went through like I don't want to call it bullying. I definitely don't want to call it. I mean, I don't know, but people, people talk like people when you're in high school
Yeah.
in that environment, it's like you're just coming into your own as a person. Like it's high school is like that stepping stone of becoming your own individual self and actually really getting to know yourself. So I was when it was a thing like these pages that people would make of like carny hoes, all that. Of course I was on it. Of course I was on it.
Okay.
And now I can fully embrace that. Why? Because I went through experiences of people talking behind my back, losing friends, this and that, like everything. And when you go through something like that, you really do develop thick skin.
It
And that's
makes you
why.
stronger.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and I wasn't gonna, you know, I fought back, but I fought back with silence, but also becoming more confident within myself and not caring what people think.
And staying true to your own values
Exactly.
rather than
So,
succumbing to other people's opinions and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah. So you talked about developing a bond with your mother. How did that look like? Like, what were the main things or key factors that led to that actually happening or actually becoming successful? Like, is there anything specifically that you and your mother bonded together over that to this day maybe you guys still, you know,
Shopping.
shopping? Just
All
wasting,
it takes is for my mom to be like, "Do you want to go shopping?"
and then you're down. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's interesting that you brought up high school because like high school is such an interesting um, scenario, right? Like it's such an interesting place where you have to like it's literally the first time where you start to actually worry about how your like what your image looks like
Yeah.
to other people. So I think that that's one of the most dangerous things. Like my sister is going into high school next week, next year,
Eeh.
and she constantly talks to me about how scared she is, how she's scared of like not being popular and how she's scared of being, this and that. And one of the main things that I told her was like you just have to stay true to your values because then you attract the right people
Yeah.
and the right people that resonate with your values as opposed to you just succumbing to other people's opinions, peer pressure and all that stuff. And so I told her I was like because in high school that's when people are trying to find their tribe, right? Because you're exposed to a place where there's a lot of hostility.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of, envy. There's a lot of criticism. There's a lot of talk. There's, a lot of smaller groups. So everybody's trying to attach themselves to a tribe. And most people will, try to gravitate towards the most prominent ones, which are the jocks and the cheerleaders, like that most cliche
Yeah.
American high school story. But it turns out to be true though, right? Like
Yeah.
at the end of the day. And all right, so I'm imagining Yasmin within the high school scene with the same confidence you have now. Is that okay to imagine? Or did you develop it through the entire high school experience and after you came out of high school that you started honing your confidence or your
When I was in high school, I had absolutely zero confidence.
oh okay so it's not yeah.
I was very self-conscious about everything. Like I had absolutely my self-esteem was definitely like at an all-time low, but I never showed that. Like I always showed I was a strong girl. Even when people would just make rumors up about me, like I never sat there and made it clear that it affected me. I would genuinely go home and cry to my mom at that point.
And do you think that that's one of the main reasons why they would continue to pick on you? It's just that like because there's this thing where, for example, let's say that all right, so essentially as human beings, when you see someone that has qualities that you lack, that person, let's say it's confidence. You lack confidence, right? Let's say that you're a person that lacks confidence, you're extremely timid, you're insecure, this and that. What your brain does is the person you see that has an excess of confidence, which is what you lack, your brain sees that person as a threat. Because survival wise, let's say it's another female, survival wise, an alpha male will gravitate towards that confident female as opposed to the female that sits in the corner by herself reading books and antisocial and all that stuff because the confident one has the necessary genes to give off confident offspring and better offspring in general. So what your brain does is it tends to break that person down in your head. What do I mean by that? Let's say that everybody knows that that person is confident.
Yeah.
But you start thinking, well, all right, she may be confident, but look at her face. She's full of acne. Or look at her, she has weird hair. Or look at the way she walks. Or look at her voice. Her voice is weird. So then you start searching for defaults. And you start searching for, just negative connotations to that person. And that helps you cope with your lack of confidence. And then slowly but surely, you start breaking that person down to a point where that person is equal to you, or if not inferior.
Yeah.
But that with high school, it becomes actually literal, where it's not just your brain doing it, but you're physically, talking to your friends about like, look at her, like look at how she walks, look at how she does this. It starts criticizing, and then you create the hose of Kearney, you said.
Carney, say it
Carney,
right.
Carney, Carney. I always say Kearney, Carney, and then you have that person in there just to, help yourself cope with your insecurities and stuff. So I think that's really interesting. I mean, it's really a, it, it's a very tough scenario to be in, right? It's a very tough
Yeah.
environment to be in. But okay, so you said that. So your passion. Oh shit! Hold on. Let me just mute this real quick. Because people are texting me probably because of the podcast. So you said that you went through high school and then you got out and you became stronger because of it.
Hmm.
What made you get into marketing specifically? Like during high school, what happened in high school that made you not just marketing but public relations as well, fashion? Was there like a tipping point, a certain day where you just decided like I want to incline like I want to tilt towards this area? Like I want to study marketing. I want to do the like was there like a specific thing that happened that triggered somewhere in your brain to make that decision?
Well, um, the only dream school I've been wanting to ever go to for fashion was Fashion Institute of Technology in the city. And I just happened to, that was the only school my senior year that I applied to, which was insane because
Everybody else
everyone else is applying to like three or more schools and they know that they're going to get into one of the three that they apply to. And I had just applied to one. And I actually applied to a school that the acceptance rate is less than 50%. So I got rejected, obviously. I mean, so I wanted to get into fashion. And when I didn't get into FIT, I have to say, like, it took me until recently this past semester, when I transferred to William Patterson, to realize that I don't just want to limit myself to one industry. I don't want to just go to school for fashion, because when you go to school for just one thing, which I know it's your major, whatever, but when you're going to school, say for fashion design, you have a skill. You can sew, you can design, you can draw, you can do whatever. But the way I look at it is, okay, but you're just a fashion designer. What other skill set do you have other than doing what it takes to be a fashion designer?
Yeah.
Exactly. So when I got my marketing degree, what I basically excel in now after that degree is my communication skills, my writing skills. So I definitely have to say that I'm more of a people person after getting my marketing degree. So now that I'm with PR, it's like 2 and 2.
It just seems like it just seems more natural for you now.
Yeah,
right?
it
Like,
just
everything just ties in together.
Yeah, I love it.
That's interesting. Yeah. So if you were to get, for example, just like you said, only a fashion degree, you would become a unilateral person. You would become monotone, right?
Right.
You
I
would be like,
mean, you go into an interview and they look at your resume and they're like, "I see, well, you're a fashion designer.
Yeah.
What can you do other than just fashion design?"
what
And
other
you're
value?
there like,
What do you mean?
and you're legit like questioning yourself. You're like, damn, like what can I do besides
Yeah.
fashion design?
No, for
You
sure.
know?
Especially today, because like today, if you're a one-sided person, like if you only have one ability and one thing to contribute, the chances of you actually doing well in society is extremely limited. I mean,
Yeah.
like today, like even people that have Harvard degrees, business degrees and whatever, just any type of degree from any Ivy League school, that person has to still compete within, for that spot
Oh, yeah.
or for that position within the company that he or she desires to be a part of. And so like the more credentials you have attached to your name, the better,
Yeah, of course.
I would say. So you said, all right, so you said that, so marketing made you more of a people person,
People
right?
person, yeah.
Yeah. So were you not a people person before?
I wouldn't say I wasn't. It's just what I mean by that is knowing how to communicate with people. Knowing what to say, how to say it, when to say it, and even in from a professional standpoint as well. Because when you're learning about, when I was learning about marketing in school, my business classes, there would be classes where it's like, I would be learning things that I didn't necessarily know that you could and couldn't do.
Like
So
what, for
say
example?
simple interviewing tips. You know, when you go into an interview, what should you do, what you shouldn't do. You shouldn't be chewing gum during your interview. You're gonna get asked to leave. Your resume, the way you dress, you know, these are skills that I believe should be taught in high school. Interviewing skills, like right before you go into college, because, you know,
How to get a job, right?
exactly,
It's like,
no, exactly. Building your resume, doing all of that. So that's definitely what most of my business classes taught me, as far as learning something new goes, but also how to properly shake someone's hand after, like, before or after a meeting. Like, that's definitely
even
people.
how you position your
Of
hand.
course, like,
If you're
people.
over, it's dominant. If you're like this,
Yeah, and that
it's
it's a huge thing. It's a
yep,
huge thing.
yep, yep. So, what's your take on comfort zones? What's your take on, like most people like comfort, enjoy comfort, they embrace comfort. What's your opinion on getting out of your comfort zone? Where do you stand on that? Like, do you enjoy having, like, what's your end goal? I would say, where do you see yourself in 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now? Like, do you see yourself at a steady job? Do you see yourself clocking in 9 to 5, having your retirement, building up, your 401k? Yeah, like, or do you prefer instability in a sense where you prefer to face what's unknown in a sense where face, face the unknown in a sense where I don't know, it's just like I guess it's just the way that my brain is wired. For example, I'm very against routine when it comes to just consistent, monotone, structure. For example, let's use school, for example, like school or even a 9 to 5. Like that, like those are things that I tend to gravitate away from because I enjoy putting myself at maximum danger for maximum danger,
Caraca.
maximum danger because I believe that success is located on the other side of fear, right? So you have to inevitably cross that line of fear. And for you to cross that line of fear, you're exposing yourself to maximum danger in a sense where your brain wants comfort. Your brain is like, Yasmin, let's just relax. Let's get a job. Let's stabilize. Let's have kids. Let's get married at this age because everybody else is getting married at this age. Let's not open a business because out of, every 100 people that open businesses, 80 fail. Do you want to be one of those 80? I don't think so. So let's just, so what's your opinion on just all of that?
I hate stepping out of my comfort zone.
Really? No, it's fine. It's like,
I really hate it. And you know why I hate it? Because I'm very emotional. So I just hate change. I really do. But if something, well, not if something, like things change and I learn to adapt very well to change. It's just, I really just hate the sense of change. Like, I just hate change.
So-
I don't
so
know. I don't like it. I don't like it.
but what's the reason do you think, like, why is it that you hate change so much? Is it, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out why.
I'm trying to figure
I'm
it
trying to
out
figure-
why I hate change so much, because at this point, like, we're adults now, right? So things are progressively changing, and it's like more rapid. I feel now more than
Yeah.
2 years ago,
For sure.
So I feel like things are just they're moving fast. They're moving very fast, and it's like I feel like it's just passing right before me. Like things are just moving. I'm like, oh my god. But people are getting married. Like you said, people are getting married, people having kids, this and then blah, 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 whatever. And I'm like, oh my God.
Like,
I don't want a kid right now. I don't want to get married right now.
Yeah.
Because, and I'm not talking down upon anyone that is having children or having kids now. I mean, or getting married now. But it's like, don't you want more for yourself? Like, don't you want to accomplish bigger things than to just have a kid at such a young age? And I have friends that are moms. Like, I have a friend, she's like, damn, I forgot how old she is. She's 20 years old, but she did have a kid very young. And she's very successful. She went back to school. She got her esthetician license. Esthetician, right? Esthetician license.
I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah.
While being a mom, working a full-time job,
Juggling everything.
she's a wife now too. And I have to applaud her because it's definitely a hard life, you know.
Yeah.
Being a mom in general is just
Is
a
a full-time
24/7 job.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, you're not worried about yourself, you're worried about someone else too. So it's just like, oh my God, like
Yeah, so you saying that you don't like change, like I hate going back to your whole childhood thing, but I think that everything kind of connects. Like that's why from here on out, like every guest that comes on, I'll kind of ask him or her to give me just a a quick summary of what that looked like. But do you think that it's because like when you were so young, you were exposed to so much drastic change, to like so
yeah.
much like rapid change, like everything was changing around you. Your parents divorced, you went to Brazil, you got caught up in this whole scandal, you came back and you were quote unquote bullied in high school,
Mhm.
and you felt like nobody really kind of accepted you
Yeah.
in that environment. So the way that you dealt with that was try like it or is still dealing with that in a sense where you're trying to attach yourself to consistency,
Mhm.
to something that'll bring you comfort, and try to fill in that quote unquote vacancy in a sense where you didn't have that comfort or that privilege to have that opportunity when you were younger. Do you
Mhm.
think that kind of ties in maybe?
Yeah, definitely. Like, um, going through so much like drastic events in my life,
Hmm.
through so many drastic changes in my life, it's just like you kind of sit back and you're like, oh my God, like when is it gonna slow down?
Hmm.
Like when is this change gonna stop? Like let me just breathe for a second.
Hmm.
But I don't hate change as much as I used to, if that makes sense. I
Hmm.
still not fond of it, but I don't hate it
Hmm.
as much as I used to.
Okay. So, okay. Do you believe in planning far into the future? Like, how far do you plan?
I plan definitely now 10 years ahead.
10 years ahead.
Yeah.
So, do you literally sit down and imagine yourself in 10 years?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And only recently I did that because I started making a plan for myself to, after I graduate next year with my bachelor's, I'm going to my ultimate goal is to move to Wayne to pursue my master's at William Patterson in professional communication, get myself into my career before I even enroll in my master's, obviously. So I
Hmm.
technically have to be into my career after my bachelor's, while getting my master's. So school and work
Hmm.
for 2 years. After I acquire my master's, work in my field for 2, 3 years, maybe 4, and
Hmm.
then go for my PhD, which is a 5-year program at NYU.
Wow.
So I definitely want to. And the reason why I say PhD and why I want to go for my PhD is all of my professors this past semester are doctors. You know, like they all went and they acquired their doctorate degree, and it just inspired me so much, especially one of my professors, Professor Hershon.
Shout out for he's probably watching this right now.
He really did inspire me to go big or go home, like go for it, you know, like
Yeah.
he's an amazing professor, and I really like would not have honestly decided to go for my PhD if it weren't like for him. So
Do you have any intentions? Like, do you intend on teaching in the future? Do you have any?
definitely not.
No.
I hate kids. No.
Okay. So yeah, so obviously your future revolves around academics,
Right.
right? So
Right.
it's heavily around that. Do you intend on like writing a book? If you, like since
Honestly,
you enjoy writing blogs so much.
I thought about that. Like, what would it be like to write a book, and what would I write it about?
Because I actually know someone, a friend of mine. I don't know if she's watching this right now, but she's our age and she's currently undergoing the process of writing her own book. And
Oh,
I think like I find that interesting because a lot of people assume that how old are you again?
23.
23. So a lot of people assume that people in their 20s don't have the ability to do certain things.
Oh yeah.
And what I mean by that is because of our lack of experience, of life experience. People look at us and say, like, what the fuck are you like?
Yeah. What
Like
the fuck are
you're
you doing?
you're just a kid. You're a baby still. You know, like you're still in your 20s, whatever. So that lack of experience, people are quick to judge and quick to determine what your capabilities are.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that she's writing a book, like that inspired me to a point where like I was just like contemplating on that. I was just thinking, I was like, yo, like that's dope because that shows that experience doesn't necessarily have to be the determining factor for what you do in life
Mm-hmm.
in general, right? Because I think that again, but then that ties into getting out of your comfort zone. So I think that the more you get out of your comfort zone, the more experience you build
Yeah.
and the more experience you acquire. And so the more rounded you become as a person, as a human being. And yeah, so I just found that interesting. And it's crazy that, because it's also rare for you to actually plan out your future, like it's not something that most people do.
Mm-hmm.
And most people, because they don't do that, they sometimes find themselves in tight and complicated scenarios where, for example, they're pregnant at 18.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe now they have a kid, so now they're trying to do this and do that, and maybe they can't. And then a bunch of excuses and reasons as to why to not do something comes up, and that ends up determining the overall outcome.
Right.
And so the more you plan, I think it's necessary to plan. I think that you should think about tomorrow, think about a year from now, maybe even 5-10 years from now, just to have that concept.
The way I see planning is I kind of see it as your structure in your life, like
Yeah, for sure.
it's when you plan, it kind of gives you that sense of like, I'm going to accomplish this. Like it gives you that sense of determination, motivation, and it's like you're going to do something because this is your plan. Now, when you have a plan, then I hope you have a plan B, because I definitely do. If I don't go for my PhD at NYU, where else am I going to go? If, say I don't get accepted into my PhD program at NYU, where else am I going to go?
Mm-hmm.
Columbia, because that's where I'm researching. So it's like, if you don't have a plan, if your plan A doesn't work, then I hope you have a plan B. If your plan B doesn't work, better have a plan C, because I'm having a plan the whole alphabet.
Yep.
Yep.
So so that's interesting that you bring that up. So you're a firm believer in how important it is for you to be able to pivot. Right?
Of course. I mean, if something doesn't work, like you have to keep moving. Like you just have to keep moving. You cannot dwell and sit there and be discouraged because something that you planned for a long time or even a short amount of time didn't work out, and you're like,
you just give up.
Exactly. You're
altogether.
like, I'm not gonna do this.
Yeah.
No, you could still acquire that. You just have to take a different route.
What do you think it is that makes people, I guess, give up so easily nowadays?
Not getting the result that they first envisioned.
Vision. Okay.
They envisioned something. Okay, so say that, I don't know. I'm just gonna take it with school. That I happened to not get accepted into my master's program right away. Am I going to be sad or discouraged? Yeah, I am. But I'm not going to let that affect me. I'm not going to let those emotions consume me to the point where it's like I'm sitting there feeling sorry for myself now. And now I'm angry because I didn't get what I want. And now I'm just going to take my anger out on people that are doing great in life. And I feel like I'm not.
Or take it out on yourself.
On yourself, exactly.
And
so
then just become depressed and all that stuff. Yeah, no, for sure. I believe that, I think that that's one of the main misconceptions people have. I think it's just like you have that goal that you think is the right thing for you, but you're not open-minded enough to accept that maybe that's not
the way
right?
to go. Yeah.
Because me personally, so I was living in Brazil, right? I was living there. I lived there for 6 years. We moved back to Brazil from New Jersey when I was about 12, 13-ish. And then we lived there. I went to high school in Brazil, and I was kind of forced or I was kind of forced, like they try to force feed me the idea of becoming a doctor,
Okay.
of going to med school. Because in Brazil, like there's this structure where like it revolves around either medical school or you go to law
Law
school
school,
or
yeah.
you get your engineering degree, which isn't even considered to be, like that noble, I guess. But the most noble thing to do in Brazil is to become a doctor, because that's, stability. You'll become rich because, Brazil needs more doctors and all that stuff. But long story short, I was kind of, like my dad, my mom, other relatives, my teachers, everybody told me like, you'd make a good doctor. You have to be a plastic surgeon. You have to study hard, and this is what you'll do. You'll get into this school. You'll study this amount of years in that school, and then you'll transfer to this one, and then you'll do this and that. So people were basically like everyone around me was basically creating my life plan for me. And whenever I tried to voice my opinion, I was quickly just cut off, right? Because they wanted the best for me, so they thought and assumed that they knew what that thing was, right? And so I kind of just sat there and just accepted it, and I just went about my day to day, just going to school, studying like crazy, 12-hour days of school, just like sitting down and studying and just looking up, and holy shit, it's nighttime, and waking up the other day and doing the same thing. So studying like crazy just to do these tests, because again, everybody in Brazil wants to be a doctor because of that. And so like I finally got to a point where I think I was in my room one day and I was just like looking at all of those books and stuff, and I just thought to myself, I was like, this, like I kind of asked myself like out loud even, I was like, is this what I want to do?
Yeah.
Right? Because I kind of saw that, and I was just getting exhausted with this idea of doing all of these tests to try to get into like various different places and stuff. And then I remembered, I was like, dude, like you have fucking citizenship, American citizenship, right? You could hop on a plane and go live in the US whenever
Yeah.
you want. Like, why do you feel trapped, and why do you feel obligated to go down this route when you have another route that could lead to multiple different end locations and give you multiple different, just a variety of options? And then I started trying to convince my mom that the best choice for me was to go back to the US. And my mom fought that idea to a point where we used to get into very fierce disagreements, to a point where it would almost get physical, where I would just tell her, well, I'm going with or without you. And it got to a point where I packed my shit and I called my dad, which he doesn't live with my mom because they're divorced as well. And I called him. I was like, if you don't pick me up right now, I'm going to get a cab and I'm going to go to the airport myself. And then my dad came over. I think it was like 2 in the morning or something like that. I had woken him up, and he drove to my house, and we sat and spoke for like 2 hours,
I thought
3
you were gonna
hours.
say you drove
No,
me to the airport.
no. But he kind of like sat me down and kind of, talked to me, and then I expressed my want to come back to the U.S. And then he told me, well, okay, if you can convince me in the next 2 weeks, establish a plan, a layout of what that future looks like, then I'll be on board with it, and I'll help you get to that objective, with or without your mother's approval. Because I was 18 at the time. So in Brazil, like that's a legal age for you to do everything, right? You're officially a legal
Literally
person. Yeah.
drink,
Yeah, drink.
get
Yeah.
wasted at
And
18
I
years
can't do
old.
that now because I'm 20 still. So, but essentially, yeah. So essentially, like that's what I did, and then I started just like researching schools here and researching the whole process, SATs, if I would have to, take the SATs again and all that stuff. And then I got here, and I went to CCM, which is County College of
Oh, yeah,
Morristown,
I heard.
and I stayed there for like a year. And then and ironically enough, as soon as I got here, I had to choose a major, and I chose pre-med, which is just completely ironic, just because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I figured, why not choose the most difficult one And while I'm in that class, I'll experiment with other sections. So like I started getting books for, law. I started getting business books, philosophy, psychology, and all that shit.
Awesome.
And I started just like literally while I was like enrolled in all these classes, I would kind of ignore them and just focus on like experimenting and just putting my finger inside each pot, right? Just to see which one would actually sizzle. And I started reading on business, and that's where I just got, I just fell in love with it,
Intrigued, yeah.
with the idea of being able to create something from nothing and just create something from nothing that influences and impacts people around you. And that's when I was like, holy shit, like that's what I want to do with my life. And then I switched my major to business administration, I think. And I did maybe a semester, and I dropped out after that because an- again, one day I was sitting in my classroom and I just looked around. I looked at the professor. I looked at the way that he went about teaching the class, and I was like, "This guy doesn't know more than me. Like I know everything he's saying. Like this is pretty intuitive. This is pretty, you know." And so I just looked around, and everybody was uninterested, and everybody just falling asleep, or And I was like, I can't relate to these people at all. So why am I here?
Yeah.
And then before I dropped out, I began creating the business plan for Fiber Fitness. And so I started, trying to establish a plan and actually physically going about plotting, an end result, physical, palpable end result rather than staying, reading books and trying to pass tests and stuff. And that's when I dropped out. And before I dropped out, I told my professor who helped me a lot with this. I told him I asked him actually. I was like, I have the opportunity to open a business, and or I can stay and get my um, what do you call the associate's degree in business. And he immediately told me like, "What are you doing here? Just just go."
Just go.
Just go. Like, don't stay here. Like the my business 101 professor told me that, and he told me that he did something similar. He dropped out and opened his first business, and then later went back to school because his first business, I think he failed it
Of
or
course.
went bankrupt or whatever. And then he went back to school, and then he started teaching and all that stuff. But he gained a lot of experience from it, and he found that his real passion was teaching people and not actually, leading people in a business setting. So yeah, so like that to me is just, again, it all comes down to just getting out of your comfort zone. So I managed to get out of my comfort zone to a point where I just left like I had a clear future, a clear path in Brazil. Like everything was like laid out perfectly for me. Like if I were there right now, I would probably be studying medicine right now, going to medical school, and in a couple of years from now, becoming a doctor and
Yeah.
making shit ton of money and
Yeah.
just living well in Brazil and stuff. But no, I was like, no, I want, like that's just too much structure.
Yeah.
I'm kind of anti-structure in that sense. And that leads me to another question, which may seem random at first, but it's really not, and I'll explain how it ties in. But are you a religious person? Do you consider yourself a religious person?
With the shit that I do.
Lord knows. God knows.
Deus sabe. No, I don't even know. Honestly, I don't even know what I consider myself to be. I don't know. I'm not into religion like that.
Do you believe in a higher power? Like, what do you believe in? External to you. Like, what do you believe? Like, do you believe in?
I believe freaking ghosts will come in at any moment and start haunting me. That's what
Really?
I believe in.
Really? Why?
Yo, I
Why?
kid you not. Don't even tell me that they don't exist, because spirits exist, and I don't want to hear no doubt that they don't, because they do.
Okay, but what happened to you specifically that made you believe that they...
Like, oh my god, I hate talking about it. But so
What's up? Oh, sorry.
I moved into my apartment. I moved into my apartment with my parents 3 years ago, and just recently this started happening. Oh, I get the chills when I talk about it. But when I get out of my room, there's basically a glass door to the left that leads to the stairs out the front door. So Every time I always pee at night. I always get up to pee at night. And I don't know why, but like, you know, when you're just so drowsy and you're like, you just look around after you wake up in the middle of the night to go pee. So I don't know what my thing was, to look at the door every time I would get out of my room. Oh my God, it's just so uncomfortable. It's like a presence was there. It's like something was just looking at me, and it was just like, it just made me like really paranoid. So ever since then, I started hearing noises in my walls, like knocking noises, and I'm like, so I made my friend at the time, she's like big on spirits, and she like sees them, and I'm not bullshitting this, like she really does. But she slept in my room one night, and I slept on the couch because I don't know, it was weird. But she's like, Yasmin, like I saw what you were talking about. Like it was in front of me. I was like, no way.
Oh, shit.
No way. No way. Like, no way. I'm not sleeping in my room. I'm not sleeping in my room. I made my mom sage my room. I don't even care.
But did you ever actually
Physically see? No.
Yeah. No, but
No.
but
you
always
just know
felt
when you feel something.
that
I don't
you're
know how to
being watched
explain
or
it. I
something
really
like that.
don't. But it's just like
Yeah.
when my psycho friends are obsessed with like those movies, those exorcism movies, and
Those movies are awesome.
and no, I don't fuck with that. I don't
Yeah.
fuck with that because let me tell you something. When The Conjuring came out and they put that note, and before going in, there are priests on site, whatever the fuck it was, that was on site before watching this movie. If there's a warning before watching a movie, I'm not watching it.
That happened with The Conjuring?
Yeah, when The Conjuring first came out, they put like signs outside of the movie theater, like priests, something about priests being there, because it was just sick. If
Wow.
oh my God, it's disgusting.
Whoa. Like,
To me, it's gross.
I did not know that they actually had priests on site. Like,
No, yeah, they
like
did.
I heard about stories where, people got possessed during the. Oh yeah. So we'll restart it, but this time what I'll do is I'll place this water bottle here, and then I'll place my phone like this and your phone like that, and then I'll just switch it out occasionally, because that way we can actually read what they're saying.
There's like
But
a lot of
but yeah, so I've heard about incidents where people got possessed
See, no. See, I don't
inside
fuck with
the
that.
movie theater.
I don't fuck with that. See, no. See?
And and another thing that I just wanted to bring up is my mom. She's really into all of that stuff as well. Like she's kind of like you when it comes to like spirits and stuff, but she's more tranquil because she actually believes that like that's kind of normal to a point where she kind of like it doesn't really bother her, but she says that she also sees shit.
My mom does too.
Yeah,
My mom
and then
sees it.
one day, I forget what we were doing, but basically my mom, I was driving her somewhere, or we were in my car actually, and then she got into the passenger seat, and then I started driving, and then she just commented as if it were no big deal. She said, I spoke with your grandfather today.
That's what my mom does.
And then, but my grandfather has been dead
yeah.
for years and years. And she told me, and then I was like, wait, what? And then she's like, yeah, just now in the living room, I saw him and I spoke with him. I was like, Mom, like, are you okay? Like, have you slept well?
See?
How many hours have you slept? But then she told me that she didn't really sleep well that night, and she only managed to get like 2 hours of sleep. So like that leads me to like another thing. It's like that day you were drowsy, you woke up in the middle of the night. Do you think that kind of influences it, or do you strongly believe that?
I strongly believe that they exist.
Okay.
I strongly believe.
Okay.
I definitely do. I like.
Yeah. No. Yeah. All right. So before we get to the next subject, which I'll touch on, let's just get the live thing real quick. So people listening, we're currently swapping the phones. The live goes for an hour, so that means that we got 1 hour down.
We're live for an hour.
We're live for 1 hour on both phones, and now we're gonna test it out and put it in different positions. That's what she said.
So many people are watching me. Oh my God, my friend Paul was watching me. Wait, I want to see who said what.
Save it on your Instagram, and then we could check it out later to see like who actually commented or said anything. Because you can like skip through it. Yeah, so we'll do that format. So how many people were on your live?
I didn't. 39.
39. Okay. I got 15. So we could do that again and then just, swap out the phones. Let me see if I can get. I'll just use the other water bottle. I just want to make sure that it's not covering the camera over here just real quick. Yeah, it's not. Then what I'll do is I'll put this like this. And we should be good to go.
Okay, right. Are we gonna talk about the Kate Spade thing?
We are, but before that, I just want to touch on another thing regarding the whole ghost,
Okay.
supernatural stuff, just to get your opinion on something that I've been thinking about recently. All right, so let's go live again.
Hold on.
All right.
Wait.
Then I'll just switch it out as we go. All right. So what I want to ask you is, I read this somewhere where they said that scientists are doing research where they're trying to figure out if material things have memory. As in, for example, this table could acquire memory as time progresses.
What?
A house, its walls could acquire memory as it progresses. And scientists, I don't know how, but they're actually almost confirming that
Oh,
things
what?
have
This
memory.
table can acquire memory?
That's what scientists are trying to get to. It's like, so for example, and that would kind of explain the whole supernatural thing, where for like most extremely haunted places are places where really bad things happened.
Mm-hmm.
So either a psychiatric hospital,
Hospitals.
a place where a guy committed suicide, an
Somewhere, a
apartment.
house someone killed their whole family
Yes,
in.
exactly. So like there's very strong, it's very emotionally charged
Yeah.
spaces. So they say that maybe, just maybe, that's how you conclude that when you walk into those spaces, you feel something weird. You feel a very strong, heavy, negative energy, and you even start seeing things. Even, like they say that the possible explanation for that, or what they're trying to get to, is like maybe the walls have memory. Maybe they absorb things that happen, especially negative energy,
Yeah.
and then they just give that off consistently and constantly. What do you think about that?
I definitely believe in like the whole wall giving off energy, in terms of like colors, if that makes sense.
Explain.
Like, okay, like your wall color right now is just giving off a sense of neutralism, like neutrality, where it's
okay.
like very
The color scheme, you mean,
very
right?
calm and
Yeah.
as opposed to
Like a
if
red, blood red.
yeah,
color.
like a red, like shit, like you
Intense
want
intensity,
a
yeah.
red room, like
Yeah.
ew, you
Yeah.
know,
No,
or
yeah.
like a black wall in your house, and you're like, oh, why are you so dark? Like,
just
you know,
so
yeah,
heavy,
it
charged.
really is. Like,
No, yeah. That actually, I did some research on that for the gym, actually, right? Because, like, for example, just like you said, a green room subconsciously triggers nature. It kind of reminds us of nature. It kind of relaxes us. It kind of soothes us. So, like, a lot of gyms have green rooms where they're generally used for yoga, stretching, and all of that stuff. And then blue is kind of a more relaxing, neutral color where it's put into the cardio area where you're already doing a lot of intense, movements and stuff. And then in the free weight area where you have, dumbbells and all that stuff and bench presses, that's where you put the red, because the red actually triggers, like, physically triggers your blood pressure. It raises your blood pressure. It triggers a bunch of stuff to make you actually, more aggressive and more inclined to actually, lift more, I guess. But yeah, so that whole materials gather memory, like that to me was just a shock. I was just like, holy shit. But it kind of makes sense though, like if you think about it. And I'm actually curious to know, like, did the apartment that you're living in right now, like, do you know of its past owners, or do you know of its history?
Honestly, no, I don't even want to know. I really don't.
Did you ever like think about finding that out after
No,
you had that experience? Maybe, like
I
learn
don't
about
know.
like past residents.
I don't like to.
Dig into it too much.
Yeah. Like, let's just leave it there. If there's a ghost haunting my house, I don't want to know anything about you.
Yeah, just
I really don't.
leave them chilling. Nah, for sure. All right, so let's just. I also want to touch on the whole Kate Spade thing. Like, she
Let's.
committed suicide. She hung herself, right? Correct.
Yeah.
And apparently, she left a note to her daughter. I think. Apparently, telling her to not blame herself, but to blame her father.
To ask her dad.
To ask her dad.
Why she did what she did. But okay,
That's intense.
hold on.
That's crazy.
Hold on. Before we get into this, I just have to take like a breather right now because I get so annoyed just thinking about it. You know, like
Why?
because it's just like
Are people commenting? Do you know?
no,
No?
they just
Okay.
left. But before I get into this topic, I just want like anyone who's gonna watch this podcast to know that I'm not speaking on suicide as a whole when I speak on Kate Spade. Okay, like I don't want people to assume that just because I'm speaking on one person's experience that I'm speaking on everyone else's experience, because I'm not. And I'm not dismissing mental illness at all when I speak about Kate Spade. So the whole Kate Spade situation is she hung herself on Tuesday. She was found dead on Tuesday.
June 5th.
She was found dead on June 5th, yeah, in her New York City apartment by her maid, I think. But that was when news broke out in the afternoon. News broke out of her note that she left at night to her daughter, her 13-year-old daughter, saying, "Don't blame yourself, ask your dad."
Wow.
What?
Imagine,
Like what?
Imagine getting home and just learning about that from the maid.
Imagine getting home to your mom who hung herself as a teenager, and you getting a note, "Don't blame yourself, ask your dad."
Oh. Yeah.
What would you do with yourself
Yeah.
as a 13-year-old? What can you can't even begin to fathom the whole situation.
Did her daughter speak publicly at all? Did she
I
touch
haven't
on the
heard
subject?
anything. No, I haven't heard anything.
Did her husband say anything about the situation?
No, but you know what? Was reading about Kate Spade, and my mom did tell me that Kate Spade had like an opioid addiction in the past. So
maybe she rebounded into it. Maybe
she had an opioid addiction. That's all I know. And what's interesting is that the next day, like I had a therapy session with my therapist, and my therapist didn't even know Kate Spade killed herself until I told her. And my therapist, she's like, I did my thesis statement on suicide, and when she kind of just educated me more on suicide and the factors, I can honestly understand.
What it led.
Why it led to where it did, because she did say when you're on, whether it be alcohol, drugs, anything that has you under the influence, you're not yourself. So you're not thinking as yourself. You're thinking under the influence. So what are you,
Yeah.
So, okay, I get that. Cool. But what I don't understand is why a mother could be so selfish as to, in terms of, not seeking the help that she should have sought in order to better herself for her child. Not just for her, but her child. Like, I don't know. That's insane to me. And the minute I told my therapist, she's like, that is the most selfish thing that she has ever done.
That she could have done, period.
Yeah. Now, well, yeah, period.
Yeah, and I also heard that she was scared of seeking out help because of her
she didn't want to
brand, I
seek
guess.
help because it was going to hurt her brand. And,
Wow. That makes it even worse, because that implies that she values her brand more than her
her
own daughter
mental health
or herself.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like, especially, you know, I feel like mental illness, I feel like mental illness has made kind of like a drastic, it's been a topic of conversation all of a sudden. Not that it's never been there, but I feel like all of a sudden it's like,
It's more prominent now.
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
a huge thing now.
Yeah.
And people are speaking out about their mental illness experiences and all that. And I'm like, that's not strange, but
Why do you think that's happening though? Like, why do you think that's happening? Like now specifically, where that's
I have to say, I feel like ever since that 13 Reasons Why show came out, that's definitely an influence as to why mental illness, like health, is like such a huge topic of conversation more than ever. And not that it shouldn't be. I definitely believe it should be. You know, if you're struggling with anything, you should seek help, of course.
Yeah.
But going back to the Kate Spade issue, my only issue with that is because after I posted my whole Instagram rant about Kate Spade and her suicide, I had a lot of people literally come at me, and they were just like livid in a sense where it's like, oh, you don't understand what she was going through, or you don't know her personal life, or like your lack of understanding this and that. And it's just like, how do you know if I don't understand?
Yeah.
It's like, I may not know her personal life, but how do you know that I don't understand the whole like suicide thing? So I don't know. It's just I don't like talking about issues like this.
Yeah,
Because it leads into a controversial discussion, and someone, they don't like what you're saying,
someone
and
disagrees.
yeah, so it just turns into like a whole thing. That's why I just say leave it to the professionals who actually study
understand
this in depth
and do thesis on it.
Yeah,
just like
who
your
do research,
psychiatrist did it.
actual research.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is, if you're struggling,
Yeah.
seek help.
Yeah. Like, my opinion on everything that we just talked about is essentially, like, I think that maybe the tipping point, as to what leads a person to make that decision to, tie that rope and to, make that final cut is, I would say it's the lack of communication. I think that the lack of communication leads to most of the problems that we have in society, at a point where it's so ironic because, like, nowadays with social media, you would think that communication is taking is becoming more and more prominent and more effective, but what's happening is the complete opposite. And things like this, which is just celebrities in general going through these problems, is what's exposing and what's surprising people the most. Is that, like, for example, Kate Spade, she was an extremely successful businesswoman. She created this empire. She probably had everything that she could ever dream of at her disposal, like everything. And then to, like, make that drastic decision, that very selfish decision, like, that just, like, we can't really understand. And then we're quick to judge and say, well, like that person had no reason to go through that action and to, like, make that drastic decision. But we don't understand that the lack of communication can happen anywhere, even from a mansion in the hills to apartment in the projects, for example. Like, there's lack of communication everywhere, and, like, that's just, like, it's kind of confusing because, again, it's it's a very complicated topic, and it's very hard for you to actually say what you think about it without hurting people and without getting on people's nerves. But I also think that one of the reasons why people went at you because of it is because of the tribe mentality that has become even more even more. How do I say it? Has become even more. I hate saying the word prominent again because I use it a lot, but even more prominent in today's age. Because like people are constantly trying to find things to be angry about because we're in a time of extreme comfort. We're in a time where you have everything you want when you want it. We're in the time of Amazon. It's that one click. You have this delivered at your doorstep in the same day. And so we're looking for issues and problems because that's just how we're wired. We're always wired to, search for, I don't know. But why do you think those people went at you specifically? Like, do you know about their history,
No,
about
I
their
don't.
personal
I
stories?
don't know anything.
Do you know them
And
personally at least?
I know them personally. I actually, one of my friends, she texted me after she saw my rant, like a huge paragraph, and I really hate that she said that my lack of understanding. And I want to clear something up. Not too long ago, 2 years ago, I went through something very extremely traumatizing that led me up to have my therapist 2 years later. Every 2 weeks, I see my therapist because of exactly what I went through 2 years ago. And, I was almost at that point where it's like, we want to talk about depression nowadays and throw it out there. I would probably almost, if I didn't seek help myself, I would have definitely reached that point, because what we all also, not all, but mostly people who think that suicide is bullshit, and what they fail to realize is it's actually extremely difficult for people that are suffering to stand up and say, I need help, because they think that no one's going to be there and willing to listen to them, or they feel like it's not going to help them as much as they want it to.
Or maybe they even think it's a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
Or it's, yeah.
But the first thing that my therapist, my first session ever that day, she said, I want you to know that you are very strong for doing what you're doing right now and taking that step to receive my help. So it's a genuine step of strength to go see a psychologist. Even if you can't afford a psychologist, if you go to school, there's always school counselors. If you don't go to school, there's always resources. I mean, there's always someone that is going to be willing to listen. There really is. And if there isn't, then fucking talk to a random person.
Just reach out to your friends.
Reach out to someone. Just reach out to even the police department. I'm sure if you tell them look, I'm going through it right now, even if you're at that point where it's I'm thinking about freaking killing myself right now. I need someone to stop me, and it's I'm not too light on suicide either, because I did have an ex-boyfriend who actually took advantage of the whole suicide. Basically because whenever we would get into these serious fights, he was very emotional, and he would basically he would basically put it out there. He's like, I'm gonna kill myself.
Wow.
And you don't take that lightly. Hearing that from your own boyfriend, you're just are you kidding me? And he only did that for my attention, and it wasn't just once or twice or three times. It was more than 5 and 10. So it became a constant thing with him, where it's I don't take that as a joke, because he would say things like that just to get me to talk, to him.
Wow.
So why am I not so open to speaking about suicide? Well, because of my own personal experiences with people who have been suicidal or have been, but they're just not, because they're doing it for attention. And I'm not saying anyone who does,
I get it now.
It's not all for attention, but it's definitely something that you need to get checked out if that's what you're thinking.
No, yeah, and I do think that what you're saying is valid, because a lot of people, again, they try to find things to attach themselves to. So, for example, if you're not getting attention, then the best way for you to get attention, if you make yourself a victim.
You're gonna say something so fucking extreme. You're gonna be It amazes me. It amazes me. It really does.
And it's similar to like the boy who cried wolf, for example, right? So you're trying to get the attention of the village. And the way that you do that is by saying something drastic and something horrible. And I think that you can kind of associate that and stem down from that particular thing into like maybe racism, suicide, just various different groups that feed off of that, of that attention. So I think, wow, but the thing about your boyfriend though, like that's intense.
Ex-boyfriend.
Oh yeah, sorry, your ex-boyfriend.
Ex-boyfriend.
She stared into the camera. Now, if you're listening, she rolled her eyes again. But yeah, no, but that's cool. Do you want to tell people a little bit about the William Patterson thing that you told me about that you want to do an interview? Like, how does that work, and what's that all about?
I'm a part of an organization at school called Her Campus. It's a chapter that was started at Harvard University between 3 women in 2009. And basically what it is, it's just like an online magazine for girls at various universities across the nation, as well as we're in 11 other countries as well. So it stems from fitness, beauty, personal issues, body image issues, anything. We write about anything. So at William Patterson, we don't start back up until the fall. So, but I wanted to interview you because I see that your whole fiber fitness journey.
So you guys also touch on like entrepreneurship and all that stuff.
Well, we can touch upon anything, but what I really find interesting is your age and what you're doing and everything that all the resources, So that's what I definitely want to get into. I want to touch upon that people in their 20s don't have to have a degree to
actually do shit.
Take something on. Like you're taking on something huge that most people get told you can't do it because you don't have a degree in this or you don't have the experience or skill. But it's like you're learning all of that
via experience, right?
Right.
Yeah. And I was actually told, I don't know if you saw my Instagram stories. Do you know Retro Fitness?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I brought this up in the last interview. I probably brought this up in the first one as well. But it's just something that stuck with me where the owner, the CEO of Retro Fitness, Eric Kazaburi, he told me that he specifically, because like
he told you
how it went was before this happened, I had a relatively okay relationship with him in a sense where I used to watch all of his vlogs that he used to post on Instagram, YouTube, kind of showcasing his day-to-day life as the CEO of this humongous company, which is Retro Fitness, which is literally an empire. There's more than 180 gyms scattered across the U.S. But essentially, he used to document his whole experience. And me going into the fitness industry, obviously, I used to study him. I used to, analyze and, just see how he went about doing certain things so I could, kind of try to cater that into my own journey. But, okay, so basically, I used to, DM him and saying like, oh, like awesome video, truly inspirational, this and that. I just listened to the podcast interview that you did, really enjoyed it. I could relate and stuff. And he used to always like give me positive response, right? Like thumbs up or like, thank you very much. I really appreciate it, whatever. But then when I put out my first vlog, the first fiber vlog, where I'm trying to document my whole experience as a way to motivate other millennials and other 20-year-olds who are told that because they're in their 20s, they can't aspire to do something great, right? Because they need experience. So if a kid, for example, he's 21 and he's thinking about starting his own clothing brand right now, maybe somebody that he looks up to, or maybe his parents or his friends or whoever, turned to him and said, well, you're only 21, so what the fuck are you talking about? Like don't even start because you're going to fail because you have no experience.
Yeah.
But what if that 21-year-old kid saw a fiber vlog and saw like that this 20-year-old is doing all of this shit. So like maybe that will kind of inspire that 21-year-old to like see and say to himself like, if he's doing it, then maybe I can do it myself, right? So like that's my end result and end goal with the whole vlog thing, and we should have a vlog up, the second one, tomorrow. But anyways, so when the first vlog came out, I sent the link to the owner of Retro Fitness.
Oh my god.
But I sent him the link in a very friendly manner. Like I just told him like, you played a considerable role in my in my decision to go about this journey. So you inspired me. I watch all of your vlogs, and so I decided to start my own. Here's the link. He saw it, and the vlog was maybe 11 minutes, 12 minutes, and exactly like 12 or 13 minutes later, he saw it, clicked on the link, did not respond in the DMs, watched the full video, and then went on his Instagram stories and just went on a rant, something that he never had, like, I've never seen him do that before, to a point where, like, I've been following him, I think, maybe over a year, and I've never seen him do anything like that, where he went on a rant, just, just writing shit and posting it and talking about how my generation wants all the luxury of those who came before without actually putting in the work, and saying how my generation is fucked. But he didn't really say my name, but it was obvious that he was talking about me because of the things that he said that were in the fiber vlog. And so, for example, in my vlog, I presented the fitness consultant who is a member of the fiber fitness team, who's, he has years and years of experience within the fitness industry. His name is Tony. He's helping me out with everything, like anything and everything, connections, putting me in touch with, contractors and equipment reps and all this stuff. So he's kind of the person he's kind of the bridge that's helping me, with the whole experience part. Because, I'm only 20 and stuff, so I don't really know that much, but, he's kind of the guide or mentor. And so even that, he said that a consultant is a title for a has-been business owner who is incapable of running a business anymore. So like obviously Tony. So what I'm trying to get with all of this is, when a leader within the industry that I'm trying to go into just turns to me and says, and he even said this, he said that it's better if I just pack my shit in now before I lose half my life and all of my money trying to do something that I'm not cut out to do to begin with. So he said that, and I took a print of that message, and I look at that every morning, because every morning that is the ultimate source of motivation for me, right?
What's his name?
Eric Kazaburi.
Cause of what?
Kazaburi, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so like that's what he said. But then ironically enough, I went to this other gym called Impact Zone. And Dave, who's the owner of Impact Zone, extremely successful facility. It's huge. It's enormous. A lot of famous athletes train there on a daily basis. Players from the Giants, players from the Yankees. A lot of just really important people train there, and it's an amazing place to go to and train. And Dave welcomed me. Not only welcomed me, but took time out of his day, out of his schedule, to walk me around his facility and show me the ropes to the industry and to the business. Like, he gave me practical business tips. He gave me practical fitness tips. I posted my interaction with him on Facebook. He reposted it and said that it's always a pleasure to see people as excited and enthusiastic as myself going into the industry. So he was trying to lift me rather than trying to suppress me.
And put you down.
Yeah.
But you know what I have to say though too is those people that kind of tell you you're not cut out for it. Those are the people that either you've reached such a high point in your life and now you think you're better than someone, or you're just kind of envious at the fact that someone's doing something at such a young age that you later on in life just did, So or they're just a freaking hater. Like, oh.
Yeah.
But those are the people that definitely motivate you.
No, for sure. Like I see that print that I took like every
Yeah,
single
of
morning.
course. And you know what?
It's just something that
I fucking hate retro fitness.
You do? Before this or after this?
I've always hated retro fitness. That's why I go to LA Fitness.
LA Fitness
But
is
I'm gonna
better.
go to Fiber Fitness when it opens.
Yes, she will. Yes, she will. She has no choice but to go to Fiber Fitness. Nah, yeah. So hold on. I'll just have to. Hold on, guys. All right, so we hit the limit for the time here. Apparently, it says that we did 2 hours and a half. I'm not sure if that's the real time. I'm not sure if I skipped through this program or something like that. But anyways, all right. So let's just wrap this up because if we're 2 hours in, then that's a long fucking time. It's a long conversation. Do you have anything that you want to plug in? Anything that you're currently working on or that you want people to check out?
Well, just check out my blog very soon, featuring you.
Which I'm excited and kind of scared of doing
Featuring
because I
you.
don't know how that'll turn out. But
It'll
yeah.
be fine. It'll be fine.
Apparently, she wants to get me to give fashion tips. Is that it?
No, I'm basically just gonna be taking a picture of you.
Uh-huh.
What I want from you though is definitely an opinion from a man's standpoint of view as to what types of fabric and everything
What
that
things
you
I prefer. Okay.
Yeah, that comfort levels with certain, since we're going to be doing a business professional look with you, what types of suit fabrics you prefer, what kind of look, what just kind of shoes.
Got it. I could do that. Yeah. I thought that you were gonna be like, all right, so give me your
that's
fashion
That's all
taste.
me.
I'm like, I have no experience
That's
in
all
fashion
me.
at all. All right, guys. So check out her blog. I'll leave the link below. And yeah, that's a wrap. This was the third episode of FiberCast.
Yes.
Hopefully, we'll be able to look back on FiberCast in maybe a couple of months or a couple of years and be like, holy shit, like.
No, we will. We will.
Like that was the beginning of the beginning. So yeah, guys. So thanks for watching. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming
having me.
on. Thanks for coming on. All right, that's a wrap, guys. Thanks.